Alright, little guy, but to start, today's show, we're fishing panfish, but the show is mainly about seasonal patterns and seasonal movements of fish in general. Learning these seasonal patterns is a big part of consistently catching fish all year long. You know, just for example, we're fishing panfish today, and I know that in the spring, all these panfish move up shallow, do their spawning at about 63 to 65 degree waters, and then they move out to the deeper water, like we're catching them now. And this is kind of stop number 2 for them. This might be a little bass. Yep, this is stop number 2 for these fish. And as the season progresses, I know these fish are going to move out a little bit farther even. And they're going to move out into deep water, 22 to maybe even 30, 40 feet of water, where they're going to stage up for the winter time. And then I know when winter time comes, they'll be in deep mud flats. And just that basic knowledge of what fish do on a seasonal pattern is really going to up your percentages of catching fish all year long. It's going to give you ideas of where to start looking and where to start fishing and how to even start fishing for the certain species that you're going after. We're going to go through a few of the things that I'll look for through the season and things to kind of watch out for as the season goes on. So it's going to be a good one. Got him. Another little bass. You know, a big part of this is really done at home. Learning what temperatures fish like and what they prefer, and kind of like learning the spawning temperatures. A lot of that's kind of done at home, just doing research on certain types of fish, because every fish is different. But once you get in the lake, it's always time to put it to practice. And the biggest thing I can say, especially if you're on a lake that's new to you or something like that, is bring a lot of different things with. Because you're not really sure. I mean, there's kind of guidelines to each time of the year. You know, in the spring, most fish are up shallow. You can fish kind of faster baits, fish them through weeds and that. As the summer progresses, most fish move a little bit deeper. You can fish with lindy rigs or jigs or slip bob or something like that. And then as the fall comes, they even move a little bit more deeper. But it's learning those different structural elements that those fish want to key in on and what they're looking for at certain times of year is the biggest part about fishing in general, because you're gonna eliminate so much unproductive water that all that's going to be left is productive water, and sooner or later you're going to find these spots. And the thing about it is these spots the weeds may change, water temps, all that might change a little bit, but the structures themselves stay the same. So when you learn these areas, learn these structures, learn what those fish like on that particular body of water, you'll be able to go back and do the same thing over and over and over, year after year after year. And those fish are always going to be in those same patterns. So it's important to learn and do some research on whatever species you're going after, and it's really going to up your boating odds. Boy, these fish are fun this time of year. Put up a really good fight. Alright, the biggest part about this, one of the biggest parts, is covering water. Especially if you really don't know, you don't really have these patterns down yet, covering water can be your best friend when it comes to learning what these fish are going after at certain times of the year. So you got to fish baits that allow you to do that. Like for instance with these sunfish, these panfish that we're after today, I'm trolling using a small jig head with a twister tail on it, and I'm just covering water. I'm moving at a mile an hour, and it's allowing me to narrow down which weed patches are going to hold the bigger size fish, the nicer fish, and just to cover water for future dates, so I know where these fish are at come certain times of the year. You know, I know we've been mainly talking about panfish today, crappies and sunfish and that, but the same holds true when it comes to, let's just say, walleyes, for instance. In the spring, walleyes are going to go up shallow to spawn in about 40-degree water. They're going to hang out in that spawning area for a little while, a few weeks. Then those big females are going to dump off into some deeper water and kind of recuperate while the males will stay behind. That's why you'll notice a lot of guys catching a lot of smaller walleyes in the spring. Once they recuperate, those fish will kind of spread out on those first big break lines by their spawning area. And then after that period's passed, another week or so, those fish will start to move off to their deeper water haunts. That's going to be their big point, underwater points, sunken humps, weed edges, deeper weed edges, things like that. Those more classic walleye structures that people always think about. And they'll stay there for quite a bit of the summer. And you'll catch them on and off. Whenever they're up and hungry, you'll catch them on top of those structures. And then as fall comes, they'll move even deeper. That thermocline will release from the lake, the water will turn over, and those fish are allowed to go. They could be down 100 feet if you want. And knowing this, it's going to you're going to be able to pick spots out on the lake and minimize the time you spend not catching fish. Because if you're not fishing where the fish are, you're not going to catch nothing. You need to learn where these fish want to be, how they want to act, and what kind of presentations are going to trigger these fish to bite. You know, for instance, in the middle of the summer, fish, their metabolism's higher, the water's warmer, and more often than not, a faster presentation is going to get you more bites. Whereas in the fall, the water temps cool down, the fish's metabolism cool down. Yes, they do tend to feed a little bit more heavy in the fall to prepare their eggs and that, but you still got to slow your baits down. Use bigger baits and move a little bit slower through the water. So knowing these different techniques and tricks is really going to up the odds when it comes to fishing whatever species you're going for. Yeah, another little sunfish. And it takes some time to really learn these areas, learn these spots, and learn what each fish kind of like to do. And it's not a guaranteed system. You're not gonna, just because you know what the fish are doing, you're not gonna go out and hammer fish every time you go out. Every day is different. But the guidelines in this show will help you to understand a little bit better of what the fish are doing at certain times of the year. He's not too bad. Learning the structural elements and the seasonal patterns of whatever species you're going after, sunfish, walleyes, bass, muskies, crappies, even bullheads, catfish, carp, anything you're going after. Learning those seasonal movements, seasonal patterns, and seasonal triggers when it comes down to lures is the biggest factor in consistently catching fish all year long. And you start learning those, get those down, write that journal that I always talk about, write those journals. Write down even if you don't catch fish. And you're going to put a lot more fish in your boat. So you guys have a good one. We'll see you next week.